I really realized I was not in control of myself anymore, and I had never ever felt that in my life, and I was freaked out. Deep down, I was like, what is going to happen to me? I understood in that moment that I was with a narcissist and that I had to protect myself. In this video, I'm going to talk about the breakup point with my narcissistic ex and everything that happened in the moment I decided to leave. So my parents visited the ship and felt that something was off straight away. I was really starting to feel destroyed within, losing my sense of self. The feedback from my parents were that they couldn't feel him, they couldn't see through this guy. My dad literally told me that in 57 years of his life, he's never sat at a table with someone and felt this little human exchange. And in that moment, I really thought that maybe something was wrong. That it was not just me feeling like I was overgiving and doing everything to make it work and that I wasn't really respected. So I had this sense of understanding in that moment that maybe something's off. This is the moment I really started to realize that everything was about him. Sexually, financially, emotionally, everything was about him. And I really started noticing even more that something was deeply wrong. I felt even more disconnected from myself, lost, confused, manipulated, and I started reconnecting with my understanding of love relationships where things are supposed to be equal, we're supposed to respect each other, to be here for each other emotionally. Because even though I had only toxic relationships before, I had seen my parents and some couples around me where they could be themselves, they could be here for each other and lean on each other, and I really understood in that moment that we were not heading that direction with my ex. But in that moment, the idea of giving up on the dream of being together, of going to Asia, of traveling, of getting married, of having children was so painful. And most importantly, the pain of having to come back to myself and face my shadow, face my darkest parts was so unbearable. I was in between, I was like, well, there's one part that started thinking that it's not going to work with him, but then another part that's like, I'm going to do everything I can to make it work. So I was really confused, and it was a really, really hard time where I was trying to understand what was happening and what I should be doing and where I should be heading. I think at some point I just really realized, after talking to him and trying to fix things and always being gaslighted and always feeling like I'm not good enough, like I'm just being selfish and thinking about myself just because I was trying to express how I was feeling and explaining that I needed a little bit of space as well, to express my emotions. And also I talked about the financial aspect where I was paying more. There were a lot of things that I actually tried to bring to the table, but every single time I was gaslighted, and I could start seeing a little bit of manipulation and him always making me feel really bad whenever I tried to bring something up, always turning things around. So the last straw for me was when I saw him flirting with another girl. I knew deep down that he wouldn't change. I knew that he would cheat on me at some point, and I knew that I had to leave. I understood that he's not going to change and that I was being manipulated and used and gaslighted and everything. I understood that I had to leave. So I tried to break up with him, and I said to him, I think it's not going to work. I think maybe we should be wise and realize that it's not going to work between him and I felt like whatever I was expressing, I was never getting a return, and I just felt really lonely in this whole thing and very, very hurt deep down, like I really gave up on myself. And he completely exploded when I said that maybe we should break up, making me feel so guilty and telling me, how can you do that to me when I've left everyone for you? You're really being so selfish. He really got so angry, and I was like, oh, half of me was like, oh, what am I doing? I'm being such a bad person right now. I've already hurt him so much. I've doubted of him so much when he has loved me so much and he has left everybody for me and he saved me from hell and all of that. He really was trying to make me feel so bad for doubting our relationship, for giving up on him. But most importantly, he couldn't even understand that I was having these doubts, because in his mind, he was just God. He was the king of the world, and it was like, how can someone leave me? And he was so angry, and I freaked out. It was like, is he gonna be hurting me physically in that moment? I was like, he's really seems so angry. So very quickly I left. We just were somewhere else, in different places on the ship, thankfully, because I didn't feel safe in that moment. And he really started using my insecurities around me, everything I had been telling him about, that am I going to be safe on my own and I need someone to protect me, and because I'm so misunderstood and I'm going to end up alone, and all these things, that were so sensitive to me. He really used everything to make me change my mind in that moment, but he was just really making me feel so bad and so dirty, so disgusting. He told me I had no loyalty and that without him I wouldn't be able to do anything in my life. A little while after, we had another conversation where he really wanted to talk to me, and that was a completely different version of him. It was not the angry man anymore. It was the poor little boy playing the victim. Again, like for the whole relationship, he played the victim so much. He was telling me that he has been through childhood trauma, for so many things. He even went to see a therapist because he cannot feel anything. And he was trying to get me back in this way by getting me to use my empathy for him, for everything he had been through. And I think he wanted me to be understanding so that I could come back and help him and be the savior. And of course, I felt deeply touched by everything he was telling me. And also I felt recognized. I was like, oh, he's not angry anymore. He's not blaming me anymore. You know, maybe I actually feel loved by him. And maybe I can forgive him for everything he has been through and for everything he has put me through during the relationship. And maybe we can make this work. Maybe he's ready to do the work. That's what I was believing. And also it was emphasizing my savior's part, my fixer's part, you know, to have someone to help, to have someone to be here for him. And also it made me avoid, one more time, what I had within me, what I needed to look at and to heal. But this also was the moment where I started Googling narcissistic traits, because I really had doubts. I was like, I'm really disconnected from myself, and there's a part that really sees things that are not going well in the relationship that I really want to leave, but another part that's really hooked, and there's something wrong here. I did the tests, you know, there are tests online, and I realized that he was a narcissist, and I couldn't believe it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Now I have to protect myself and I have to get out of the relationship. I was really aware of it. I understood that I was not just in a toxic relationship, because I had this feeling that the relationship was toxic, but I understood in that moment that I was with a narcissist and that I had to protect myself. So when I tried to leave again, he tried everything again. He got super angry. He made me feel super guilty for everything, and I didn't react. I said to him I didn't want to talk to him anymore. I wanted distance. He tried to go and talk to friends that we had in common, to play the victim and to get them to convince me to talk to me so that he could have the space and tell me how he loved me and how he wanted to be with me or whatever. So using other people, you know, to get back to me. He also sent me long messages apologizing and saying that it was all his fault and that he's so sorry. He was literally like throwing, you know, tactics at me so that I could get back to him. And I was just really confused, but I knew I had to put distance with him. And as I was not reacting to anything, at some point I got, I will never forgive you, something like that. And at some point I just realized I had to block him because he was not leaving me alone. So I blocked him, and I was like, okay, I had 2 weeks to go at this point on the ship before the end of my contract. And I started thinking, is he gonna leave me alone? Like, I started freaking out a little bit, thinking, is he really mad? Is he really crazy? Is he gonna leave me alone now that I've decided to leave him? It felt so unbearable for him that I've decided to leave someone who is as amazing as him. One day in the crew restaurant on the ship, I was waiting for a friend and I was feeling really low and lonely, and I hadn't talked to him for a couple of days. But again, leaving him meant going back to my dark parts and dealing with my loneliness and my social anxiety. So it was really hard. I was in a bad place. And in that moment, he came straight behind me, surprising me, you know, and he started talking to me, and I was like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. And he kind of pushed me to talk to me. And so we went somewhere to talk, even though I didn't really want it, but he convinced me. And there he was really, really good at what he did. He brought up all my deepest insecurities. He said stuff like, look, everyone is in a relationship, everyone has someone on the ship, and you have nobody, we have nobody, we're meant to be a couple, we're meant to be together, I'm meant to protect you, you're not meant to stay on your own, you need to feel safe, and all of that. He was really playing with my insecurities and also apologizing for everything he's done and really convincing me to give him one last chance. He was inviting me to go to the cabin, to sleep together and to be together, to chat, not in front of everyone. And he was very convincing, and I just didn't know how to say no, but I really wanted to say no deep down, and I realized how disconnected I was from my true self. So I kept saying no, but he kept pushing, and he repeated, come on, let's go to your cabin, dozens of times, until I said yes, just to make it stop. As soon as we arrived in the cabin, I realized I didn't want him to be here. I was like, I don't want you to be here. I felt like you convinced me, but I don't want you to be here. I want you to, can you leave please? And I asked him to leave, and he started putting his shoes on, and then he looked at me and he said, you know, I'm not gonna leave. And in that moment I realized that he knew that he had control on me. I really started freaking out. I really felt like I was not in control of myself anymore. I felt completely possessed, like I was hypnotized. That's the feeling I got. So we slept together, and during the night he pushed me to tell him that I love him, and I kept saying, I hate you, I don't want to be with you, I want you to leave, and you're not respecting my boundaries. And he would just not react and still be there, and I felt so bad. The next day I literally told everyone around me. I blocked him from everywhere, and I said to everyone that I didn't want to be alone anymore, that I didn't feel safe, that I felt like I wasn't in control of myself anymore. And so I was really well surrounded by people. I told the cruise director, I told my friends, I told security, I told everyone. From that moment I was not alone anymore on the ship, but I was really freaked out because I felt hypnotized. That's the way I felt. And I was like, I felt like he was dangerous. He really was dangerous. For someone, you know, to hear, I hate you, I don't want you to be in my cabin, please leave, I don't feel safe with you, and who's staying and looking at you with a smile like that, really, really freaked me out. It was like, okay, he's aware of how much control he has over me, which is even more dangerous. I didn't feel safe. I felt scared for my life in that moment. I was like, I don't know where that man can go. And this is when the hoovering started. So at this point there was probably 2 weeks left on the ship, 10 days or 2 weeks left on the ship, and every single day there was something. Either it was someone coming to me and trying to convince me to talk to him. It was always coming from different angles. At times it was like, I can't believe you've done that to him, you're so mean, you need to go to him, you know, you're gonna leave soon, you know. And at other times it was like, oh, he's really feeling so bad, he's so sorry for everything he's done to you. Like, they were really good. They were trying to convince me all the time, and I was just feeling so broken, so bad. So it was really hard. He was literally telling people that I was the love of his life, that he would do everything to get back to me, that he just wanted me and he admired me so much and he loved me so much. And people were really impressed. They were like, he really loves you, you can't let someone go like that, you'll regret it forever. So people were really, really playing the game as well, which was really, really hard for me to differentiate the truth and what was not the truth. So when he saw that none of this would work on me, he wrote a letter to me using again all my insecurities and trying to convince me to talk to him again. He was showing up in my performances in the piano bar in the evening, and he was staring at me, and it was making me feel so bad. But I was so proud of myself because I stayed super strong. He also pretended that his father was very sick, that he was dying, and that he was about to leave the ship and I needed to go and talk to him. Like, he went so freaking far, and I was like, oh, this man is really gonna try everything he can to get me back in a way. I even got a message from the agency asking me if I could extend my contract because he was gonna leave, and the cruise director said to me, oh, he might leave, So he was trying to get me back to talk to him before he leaves. And then when this didn't work, he said to everyone, oh, no, it's okay, I'm not gonna leave. And he even said to one of our mutual friends that it was not true, it was just a way to get me back. And he was actually proud of it. He was like, oh, see how far I went to try and get you back. I even pretended that my father died. I was so terrified. I was so scared that something would happen to me physically. I even started thinking, like, is he gonna throw me off the ship, or is he gonna do, like, what is he gonna do? I felt like it was so unbearable for him to imagine that someone said no to him, that he was rejected. I was like, he's just gonna turn crazy. And just being on the same ship as him was terrifying to me. I was screaming in the night because I was having nightmares and freaking out that he would come. I was really fucked up. My nervous system was out of the place, and I really, really freaked out. I just couldn't wait to leave the ship, and I was like, am I gonna leave the ship and still be alive? Like, I was really, really freaking out. I wasn't safe in my own body anymore. I felt completely possessed, like someone had the ability to hypnotize me on the ship. And even though I was never alone, I really felt so in danger, so unsafe. I was so scared that even the day I get off the ship to get back home, he would follow me, or I don't know. And thankfully my parent went and get me, but I was really so fucked up. I was so scared. And also I realized everything started clicking in my mind, and it was like, oh, he wanted a French passport, he wanted to get to Europe, and he had tried with his previous partners to get to France, to get to Europe. And so I knew that I was part of the plan as well, and I started really waking up from the whole nightmare. Okay, this is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. It's very intense for me to share everything, but I'm happy I'm doing it, and I know it's going to help women out there who want to share their stories or who want to understand better what they've been through. Sometimes just hearing someone else share their stories can really help, and it did help me to have women online who did share their stories. So here you go, and feel free to let me know in the comments if you resonate with anything I've said here. Feel free to share a little bit of your story as well, or let me know what resonated with you, or if you have anything to tell me from everything I've been through. And in the last part, I will talk about the healing and the post process of recovery and surviving from that relationship, because this is really what we're talking about, is surviving when you were scared for your life, when you were not safe in your own body anymore, and when you were gaslighted and treated in a bad way, physically, emotionally, and all of that. We're talking about narcissism survivors. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.